When we talk about the UFC, most people immediately think about speed, technique, or flashy knockouts. But let me tell you something that almost no one dares to admit when it comes down to survival in that cage. Raw, terrifying strength can be the ultimate weapon. Because here's the truth. Skill without power is like a gun without bullets. You can aim all you want, but when the moment comes, nothing lands with real damage. Think about it. In a fight, you can predict footwork, you can study patterns, you can train reflexes, but you cannot prepare for overwhelming, suffocating strength. That kind of strength is primal. It's not just muscles, it's pressure, it's control, it's the ability to make another trained professional feel like a helpless child. Imagine a fighter grabbing your wrist, and before you can even react, you realize you physically cannot move. That's not technique anymore. That's domination at the most human, animal level. And here's where the manipulation of the fight game begins. Because most fans are tricked into believing strength doesn't matter as much as skill. They'll say, "Oh, it's all about technique. It's all about experience." But ask yourself, why do some fighters get ragdolled even when their technique is flawless? Why do champions talk about opponents who felt like fighting a truck or grappling with a bear? It's because true strength changes the rules of the fight. It slows everything down. It drains the gas tank of the other man while keeping you in control. What makes the strongest UFC fighters terrifying isn't just that they can punch harder, it's that their strength seeps into every moment. Striking feels heavier, clinches feel like being trapped, takedowns feel impossible to resist, and when the fight hits the ground, forget it. You're not escaping. You're being crushed, smothered, dismantled piece by piece. So today, we're not just talking about skill or legacy. We're diving into something much darker, much more primal. Who is the strongest fighter in UFC history, and what insane strength training methods built their monstrous power. By the end of this, you won't just see strength as a supplement to fighting, you'll see it as the hidden weapon that decides who survives when two warriors enter the cage. 1. Why strength is the hidden superpower in UFC? Let's crush the biggest lie right now. The idea that strength doesn't matter. People repeat it because it makes them feel smarter. Oh, it's all technique. Strength fades. Wrong. The truth is, strength is the foundation that multiplies everything else. You can know every submission in the book, but if your opponent is strong enough to literally rip their arm out of your grip, your perfect technique becomes worthless. Imagine trying to hold down a lion with textbook jiu-jitsu. It doesn't matter how clean your angle is, if the beast is too strong, you're just decoration under their weight. Strength does something psychological too. When fighters feel their opponent's power, it breaks them. They start doubting themselves. They stop committing to strikes because they're scared of being countered. They waste energy just trying to survive. And in a sport where fatigue decides champions, draining the other man's soul with sheer force is as much strategy as it is biology. This is why some fighters look unbeatable, not because they're faster or smarter, but because their opponents feel like they're fighting gravity itself. 2. The freaks of nature. UFC's strongest fighters. Now, let's talk about the monsters. Certain names in UFC history don't just stand out because they won fights, they stand out because opponents couldn't stop talking about their strength. Brock Lesnar is the perfect example. A man with NFL size, WWE explosiveness, and NCAA wrestling credentials. Fighters said being under him felt like a truck parked on your chest. That's not skill, it's overwhelming power, making skill look effortless. Then you have Francis Ngannou. His punch is so strong it literally set a world record 129,161 units of force, the hardest punch ever measured. Fighters didn't just fear his striking, they feared his aura, because everyone knew that even if you blocked, your bones still rattled. That's strength you can't simulate in sparring. And then, of course, Khabib Nurmagomedov. People always credit his technique, but listen carefully to what his opponents said. It wasn't just the grappling, it was the strength. Justin Gaethje said Khabib felt like steel. Michael Johnson said, "I couldn't move." That's the hidden truth. Khabib's technical dominance was built on the foundation of raw, unrelenting strength. What these fighters had wasn't just muscle, it was functional, fight-specific power. The kind of strength that doesn't just show in a bench press, but shows when another professional fighter realizes, "I literally can't get up." 3. The insane strength training behind UFC monsters. Now, here's the part most fans never see: the training methods. The difference between a strong fighter and an unbreakable monster comes from how they train. Brock Lesnar used brutal heavy lifting, carrying tree logs, flipping tractor tires, and wrestling against resistance bands to simulate fighting giants. He didn't just train muscles, he trained his body to dominate with leverage. Francis Ngannou? He built his strength the rawest way possible, working in sand mines as a child, carrying shovels of dirt and pushing his body through brutal physical labor before he even touched a weight room. Later, he added explosive plyometrics and Olympic lifts, making his power not just heavy, but fast. That's why his punch is so deadly, speed and strength fused together. And Khabib? His training was borderline insane. Wrestling bears as a child, dragging teammates around like sacks of cement, swimming against river currents, doing push-ups on unstable logs. These weren't gym workouts, they were chaos conditioning, training his body to produce unstoppable strength under the most unstable conditions. That's why, inside the cage, no one could escape his grip. The lesson here is this: the strongest fighters don't train like bodybuilders, they train like warriors preparing for survival. Their workouts aren't about looking good, they're about making sure another man can't move when they decide it. 4. Strength as a weapon, not just a number. Here's the brainwashing truth I want you to understand. Strength in the UFC is not just about lifting numbers, it's about creating a force so overwhelming that even the best technique collapses under it. It's the invisible advantage. That's why the strongest fighters don't just win, they dominate. They don't just score points, they break wills. Think about it. When a fighter is strong enough, they can fight simpler. They don't need flashy moves, because their strength forces the fight into their world. Brock could smother people with basic wrestling. Francis could end careers with one punch. Khabib could break champions with the same pressure over and over. Simplicity becomes devastating when fueled by raw strength. And this is why we keep asking, who is the strongest fighter in UFC history? Because strength is the one attribute that makes men look invincible. Without it, even great fighters can be humbled. With it, even simple fighters can become legends. So here's the million-dollar question: when we talk about the strongest fighter in UFC history, who truly deserves the crown? Is it Brock Lesnar, the genetic freak who tossed heavyweights like ragdolls? Is it Francis Ngannou, the man whose punch could probably shut off the lights in an entire city block? Or is it Khabib, the quiet monster who made world-class fighters feel like they were wrestling a bear because, well, he literally did? And maybe, just maybe, it's someone else entirely. A fighter who never held the belt but had the kind of strength that only their opponents truly understood. That's the beauty of this debate. It's not about statistics. It's about who felt the scariest inside the cage. But now I want to throw it back to you. Who do you think was the strongest fighter to ever step inside the UFC Octagon? Drop your answer in the comments below, but be warned. If you say Ngannou, don't be surprised if Lesnar fans show up in full force. And if you say Khabib, well, prepare for an army of Dagestani fans to hunt you down. So go ahead, settle this once and for all in the comments. Who's the real UFC powerhouse? Let's see if we can actually agree, or if this debate will keep raging forever.